Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. For over a century, the United States has been the dominant force on the global stage, militarily, economically, culturally, and technologically. From leading the Allied victory in World War II to shaping global institutions like the United Nations, IMF, and NATO, America's influence has been vast and far-reaching. Its values of democracy, capitalism, and individual freedom have been exported across continents. But now, as we step deeper into the 21st century, that dominance is facing serious challenges. In this video, we'll take you through a quick journey of key historical turning points that solidified America's superpower status, from the post-World War III boom to the Cold War and the collapse of the Soviet Union. But we'll also explore how today's world looks radically different. Emerging powers. Like China and India are growing at unprecedented rates, economic competition is fiercer. The digital and technological race is redefining influence. America's internal struggles with political division, social unrest, and economic inequality are raising critical questions about its global role. So here's the central question we're going to unpack. Will America remain the world's superpower, or are we witnessing the rise of a new global order? The answer isn't simple, but by the end of this video, you'll have a better sense of what history tells us, what current trends suggest, and what the future might hold. Let's dive in. The story of America's rise to superpower status is deeply rooted in its economic, military, and ideological evolution over the last century and a half. It all began in the wake of the Civil War. The Industrial Revolution transformed the U.S. into a manufacturing giant almost overnight. Railroads crisscrossed the country, steel and coal fueled vast industries, and cities like Chicago, Pittsburgh, and New York became industrial juggernauts. By the early 20th century, America had outpaced many European nations in production, wealth, and technological innovation. Then came the World Wars, which catapulted America onto the global stage. During World War I, the U.S. played a critical role as a financial lender and economic stabilizer, emerging from the war relatively unscathed compared to Europe. But it was World War II that truly cemented its dominance. With the defeat of the Axis powers, America helped shape the post-war world, building institutions like the United Nations, creating the Bretton Woods system to stabilize the global economy, and with the development of the atomic bomb, asserting unmatched military power. As the dust settled from World War II, the world quickly entered the Cold War, a decades-long rivalry between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. This wasn't just about nukes. It was a battle of ideologies, capitalism versus communism. America expanded its global influence through alliances like NATO, covert CIA operations, and a relentless space race that led to landing on the moon. The military-industrial complex boomed, and America positioned itself as the guardian of the free world. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked one of the most significant geopolitical turning points of the 20th century. It effectively ended the Cold War, which had shaped global politics, economics, and military strategy for nearly 5 decades. With the dissolution of its only true rival, the United States emerged as the world's sole superpower, a moment that symbolized not just a strategic victory, but the full arrival of what many called the American century. During the Cold War, the world had been largely divided into two spheres of influence, the capitalist West led by the U.S. and the communist East dominated by the Soviet Union. Both sides built vast military alliances, NATO versus the Warsaw Pact, engaged in proxy wars and competed in a global ideological struggle. But when the USSR disintegrated, economically exhausted and politically fractured, the U.S. no longer had an equal adversary. The global order shifted overnight from bipolarity to unipolarity. This gave the U.S. extraordinary leverage on the world stage. Its military reach was unmatched, with bases around the globe, cutting-edge technology, and the capacity to project power into virtually any region. America's influence in shaping global institutions like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, World Bank, and the World Trade Organization, WTO, only grew stronger. These institutions were used to promote a liberal economic order based on free trade, open markets, and deregulation. Principles that reflected U.S. economic ideology and interests, but America's dominance extended beyond military and economic might. It became a cultural superpower. Through Hollywood films, television, music, fashion, and consumer brands, American culture was exported globally, shaping ideals of freedom, individualism, and modernity. Silicon Valley, home to the emerging digital revolution, began producing technologies that would soon reshape communication, commerce, and society itself. Companies like Microsoft and Apple became household names around the world, while fast food chains, jeans, and pop music created a kind of cultural uniformity that reached from Tokyo to Buenos Aires. In the 1990s, this era of dominance was seen by many in the West as the end of history, a phrase coined by political theorist Francis Fukuyama. He argued that liberal democracy and capitalist economies had triumphed over all alternatives. The U.S. wasn't just a powerful country, it was the model. Democracy, consumerism, and technological advancement were seen as inevitable paths forward for the rest of the world. Yet even as the U.S. stood at the pinnacle of global power, the seeds of future challenges were being planted. The rapid spread of globalization created winners and losers. Manufacturing jobs left the U.S. for cheaper labor markets, unregulated financial systems led to rising inequality, and the very technologies that amplified America's reach, like the internet, would later be used by adversaries and disaffected groups to challenge its influence. Still, in the years immediately following the fall of the Soviet Union, the United States enjoyed a period of unquestioned supremacy. The 1990s and early 2000s were marked by interventions in global conflicts, like the Gulf War and the Balkans, the spread of neoliberal economics, and an expanding digital revolution that reinforced America's role as a global leader. In that moment, America wasn't just leading the world, it was defining it. But the world didn't stop evolving. And, as we'll see in the next sections, new powers are rising, and America's uncontested dominance is being challenged on multiple fronts. America's position at the top of the global hierarchy is no longer unchallenged. Over the past few decades, a series of external and internal forces have begun reshaping the world order, threatening to end what some call Pax Americana. Let's start with the most visible challenger, China. Since Deng Xiaoping's economic reforms in 1978, China has undergone an unprecedented transformation, from a largely agrarian society to the world's second-largest economy. Its growth has been fueled by manufacturing, export power, and now, high-tech industries like AI, 5G, and green energy. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, China is creating a massive web of trade and infrastructure partnerships across Asia, Africa, and Europe, giving it both economic leverage and geopolitical clout. Militarily, China has modernized rapidly, building aircraft carriers, expanding cyber capabilities, and increasing presence in the South China Sea. But China isn't alone. A broader global shift is underway. Nations like India, Brazil, Russia, and South Africa, known collectively as BRICS, are asserting more influence in global decision-making. They're forming alternative alliances, pushing for reforms in international institutions, and trading more with each other than ever before. As this multipolar world emerges, U.S. influence is waning in key regions. In the Middle East, American-led interventions have bred resentment and instability. In Africa and Latin America, China and Russia are expanding their footprints while the U.S. pulls back. And while the global scene shifts, America faces serious challenges at home. Political polarization has reached extreme levels, undermining trust in institutions, fueling disinformation, and making bipartisan action nearly impossible. Economically, inequality continues to grow. The middle class, once the backbone of American prosperity, is shrinking. Manufacturing jobs have declined, hollowing out communities across the Midwest and South. Infrastructure, once world-class, now lags behind other developed nations. Education, especially public education, struggles to keep pace in an innovation-driven economy. There's also the burden of military overstretch. For over 2 decades, the U.S. has been involved in costly, often unpopular conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. Trillions of dollars have been spent, with limited strategic gains. The military budget remains astronomical, yet questions loom about whether such spending actually secures America's long-term interests. Together, these challenges raise a sobering question. Can America adapt to a world that is no longer built around its image? Or will it struggle to maintain relevance in a rapidly evolving global order? In the next section, we'll explore how America might respond, and whether reinvention is still possible. History offers powerful lessons about the rise and fall of empires, and many of them follow a strikingly similar arc. From the grandeur of Rome to the far-reaching influence of the British Empire, to the speed and fury of the Mongol conquests, empires have historically risen on the back of innovation, military strength, and economic expansion. But eventually, most fall. Why? Throughout history, the decline of great powers often follows recognizable patterns, warning signs that repeat across empires and eras. These aren't always dramatic collapses, but slow erosions, subtle shifts that compound over time until the system buckles. In analyzing these patterns, we begin to see that decline is rarely caused by a single event, but rather a web of interconnected issues that hollow out a nation's core from within. One of the most consistent signs is internal: corruption. When political and economic elites become disconnected from the realities of everyday people, the social contract begins to fray. Corruption doesn't always take the form of overt criminality. Sometimes it's embedded in systems that allow wealth and power to circulate among a small elite, while the broader population feels excluded. Institutions that are supposed to ensure fairness, like the judiciary, the media, and the electoral process, start to lose credibility. This fosters a sense of injustice, breeding cynicism, and eventually unrest. In history, we've seen this in the late Roman Empire, the French monarchy before the Revolution, or even in the Soviet Union's final years. Another recurring issue is imperial overreach. When a nation extends its military, economic, or cultural influence too far, it often spends more than it can sustain. Maintaining a vast global presence requires immense resources: troops, bases, aid, diplomacy, infrastructure. Eventually, the returns diminish and the costs become too high. The British Empire struggled with this after World War I. The Soviet Union overextended itself during the Cold War. In each case, trying to manage too much led to internal strain and eventual retreat. A third red flag is the loss of public trust. This is a slow-burning crisis that often goes unnoticed until it's too late. When citizens no longer believe that the system works for them, they disengage from voting, from civic life, from shared national identity. In some cases, they actively turn against it, seeking alternatives in extremism, populism, or separatism. This loss of trust corrodes the foundation of democratic governance. It creates gridlock, polarization, and a fertile ground for demagogues. Institutions can't function effectively without legitimacy, and once that legitimacy is lost, restoring it is a monumental challenge. Perhaps the most insidious form of decline, though, is cultural stagnation. Great civilizations are typically driven by innovation, curiosity, and bold thinking. But over time, societies can grow complacent, content to celebrate past achievements while neglecting the need to adapt. Education systems may falter, investment in research declines, and creativity gives way to repetition. A society that stops imagining its future, or leaves it entirely in the hands of nostalgia, is one that risks falling behind. This stagnation isn't just technological or artistic, it's a mindset that resists change, punishes risk, and fears the new. These patterns, corruption, overreach, distrust, stagnation, don't guarantee collapse, but they do create a brittle environment. A single crisis, a war, a pandemic, a financial meltdown, can then act as a trigger, accelerating what was already in motion. The lesson from history isn't that decline is inevitable, but that it requires constant vigilance, renewal, and reform. Nations that recognize these signs and respond proactively can endure. Those that ignore them often fade into history, not with a bang, but with a long, quiet unraveling. So, does the United States fit this pattern? Let's draw a comparison. To the British Empire in the late 1800s. At its height, Britain ruled over a quarter of the world's population. It dominated global trade, wielded unmatched naval power, and exported its language, legal systems, and culture. But underneath, the signs of decline were clear. Its industrial edge was fading, domestic inequality was rising, and colonies were becoming harder to control. The empire was slowly shifting from producing goods to consuming them, just as America today has transitioned from being a manufacturing powerhouse to a consumption-driven economy. Another parallel: soft power versus hard power. Britain's influence lingered long after its economic dominance waned, through the English language, British literature, and global education systems. Similarly, American culture, through Hollywood, Silicon Valley, music, fashion, and social media, still shapes the world. But cultural influence doesn't always translate into lasting economic or political power, especially when other nations are rising with alternative models. There's also the question of public confidence. As in past empires, when faith in institutions declines, whether it's the media, the courts, or even democracy itself, it becomes harder to unify the country behind a common vision. Combine that with widening inequality and political gridlock, and the picture becomes more complex. But unlike past empires, the US is not a traditional empire. It doesn't rule vast colonies, and its power has often come from alliances and innovation, not occupation. That distinction could be America's saving grace, or it might mean its decline, if not managed carefully, will look very different. The question, then, is not just whether America is in decline, but whether it can break the cycle that history so often repeats. In the next section, we'll explore how America could adapt and possibly reinvent itself for the future. Looking ahead, the question is no longer about whether America will face challenges in the future. It's about how it adapts to these challenges and whether it can reinvent itself in a way that secures its place on the world stage. Let's break down the possibilities. Soft power and innovation. In the 21st century, America's greatest strength may indeed lie in its soft power, a form of influence that extends far beyond military might or economic dominance. Soft power is the ability to shape global culture, ideas, and norms in ways that align with American values and interests, often without coercion or force. And while military and economic power are important, it is the subtle, pervasive influence of American culture, technology, and ideals that may ultimately define the nation's global standing in this new era. One of the most prominent examples of this soft power is Silicon Valley, which has become synonymous with cutting-edge technological innovation. In just a few decades, Silicon Valley has transformed from a small cluster of research labs and engineering firms into the global epicenter of tech development. Companies like Google, Apple, Tesla, Facebook, Meta, and Amazon have fundamentally reshaped how the world lives, works, and interacts. These companies are not just creators of products. They are shapers of global culture. Consider the smartphone revolution that Apple ignited with the iPhone. The iPhone didn't just change how we communicate, it revolutionized industries, redefined social interaction, and influenced nearly every aspect of daily life across the globe. Likewise, Google isn't just a search engine. It's become the standard for information access, altering how knowledge is consumed and how people around the world make decisions. Tesla, under the leadership of Elon Musk, has spearheaded a shift toward electric vehicles, influencing global automotive markets, and positioning itself as the leader in sustainable energy solutions. The company's innovations have not only impacted car manufacturers, but have also altered policy discussions on climate change and the future of transportation, making sustainability a mainstream concern worldwide. These tech giants wield a form of influence that is both invisible and all-encompassing. The software and platforms developed in Silicon Valley have become integrated into the fabric of modern life. From social media platforms shaping how we interact with each other, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to e-commerce platforms defining how we shop, Amazon, America's digital footprint is felt in almost every corner of the globe. Beyond just products, these companies are exporting American ideals, entrepreneurship, innovation, and individualism. The American dream, in a digital age, is often represented by the rise of startups and the possibility of success through technology. Silicon Valley is not just about business. It's about a way of thinking, pushing boundaries, breaking norms, and constantly innovating. These ideals resonate globally, influencing both aspiring entrepreneurs and established corporations in countries around the world. This influence also extends into the entertainment and media industries, where Hollywood continues to be a dominant force. American movies, TV shows, music, and even internet culture are consumed worldwide, shaping global perceptions of American life, values, and ideals. The export of American pop culture through films, music, and television programs plays a powerful role in spreading American norms, lifestyle, and even politics. Moreover, social media platforms, most of which are American-owned, have become tools for global communication, breaking down traditional barriers of information and creating a digital ecosystem that connects people across borders. These platforms have not only given rise to new forms of activism, protest, and cultural exchange, but have also made America the epicenter of digital culture. In a world where traditional power dynamics often involve military intervention or economic leverage, America's soft power offers a more nuanced form of global influence. This is a form of power that inspires, attracts, and connects rather than coerces or forces compliance. And much like during the Industrial Revolution, when American innovation set the pace for the modern world, Silicon Valley and American tech companies are continuing that legacy by creating the digital infrastructure of the future. In the 21st century, as nations wrestle with the complexities of globalization, America's ability to shape the world through technology, culture, and ideas may prove to be its most enduring and influential strength. Rather than relying on military power or economic sanctions, America's leadership in these soft power realms allows it to define trends, set standards, and drive global change, all while fostering a sense of cultural dominance that is unmatched in history. Then there's Hollywood. Despite global competition, Hollywood continues to dominate world entertainment. American movies, music, and pop culture set the stage for global conversations, and while other countries are making strides in film and media, the American brand remains iconic. American cultural exports shape everything from fashion to language, to entertainment consumption. America also holds an educational advantage, with some of the world's most prestigious universities and research institutions. These institutions continue to attract the brightest minds from all corners of the globe, ensuring that the U.S. remains a hub for research and innovation. Perhaps most importantly, the U.S. dollar remains the world's reserve currency. This status has provided unparalleled financial power and stability for America, and as long as this remains true, it gives the U.S. substantial leverage in the global economy. While this system is slowly being tested by rising alternatives, the U.S. economy still enjoys a strong position due to this financial dominance. Military alliances and strategic positioning. Despite the challenges America faces, it remains a central player in global security. Through alliances like NATO, the Quad, United States, Japan, India, and Australia, and AUKUS, Australia, UK, and the US continues to exert its influence. These alliances are not just about military strength, but about ensuring that democratic nations maintain their influence in key regions such as the Asia-Pacific, Europe, and the Middle East. The role of these alliances is vital in containing rising powers like China and Russia, whose strategic ambitions threaten global balance. America's ability to maintain these partnerships and extend its military alliances, especially with emerging powers like India, could ensure its continued influence well into the future. Potential for renewal. America is at a crossroads. While it faces challenges, it also has the potential to reinvent itself. One of the most promising areas for renewal is in technological innovation. America is poised to lead in sectors like AI, green technology, and biotech. Innovations in AI, like automation and machine learning, have the potential to reshape industries and drive new economic growth. Likewise, green technologies, from renewable energy to electric vehicles, are reshaping how we think about sustainability. With proper investment, these fields could usher in a new era of American leadership. Biotechnology offers another potential growth avenue. Advances in genomics, personalized medicine, and biotechnology could revolutionize healthcare, making life-saving treatments more accessible and boosting productivity by improving overall public health. These industries also have the potential to add thousands of high-paying jobs and new opportunities for growth, particularly in the field of bioengineering and drug development. Moreover, America has a youthful demographic compared to many other developed nations. While Europe and Japan face aging populations, the U.S. has a relatively young population, especially with the influx of immigrants who help drive innovation and growth. This demographic advantage, if leveraged properly, could provide America with the energy and creativity needed to adapt and thrive in a rapidly changing world. The question is, can America tap into this potential? The answer may lie in its ability to adapt its institutions to a rapidly changing world. If America can continue to innovate, build on its alliances, and embrace the opportunities of emerging technologies, it may not just survive the next era, it may define it. But the road ahead isn't guaranteed. As the world shifts, so too must America, constantly reinventing itself while remaining true to its core ideals. Whether it can manage these transitions without losing its foundational strength will determine whether it maintains its superpower status or falters in the face of rising challengers. Scenarios. What's next? As we look toward the future, there are several possible scenarios for America's role on the world stage. Each one depends on how the United States navigates its challenges, from internal divisions to global competition. Let's explore 3 potential scenarios for what could unfold in the coming decades. Continued U.S. dominance in this scenario, America retains its global superpower status, although not in the same form it once held during the 20th century. This version of American dominance is not about military or economic supremacy alone, but focuses on innovation, democracy, and global leadership. The United States has the potential to remain at the forefront of global progress by leading in emerging fields like artificial intelligence, AI, renewable energy, and biotechnology. These sectors are not only poised to drive economic growth, but also to reshape industries, improve lives, and address some of the world's most pressing challenges. AI stands as one of the most transformative technologies of the 21st century. The U.S. has already made significant strides in AI, with companies in Silicon Valley and research institutions across the country spearheading advancements. From autonomous vehicles to healthcare innovations, AI has the capacity to revolutionize almost every sector. By continuing to invest in research, development, and talent, America can solidify its leadership in AI, attracting top minds and nurturing the next wave of breakthroughs. The ability to harness AI for everything from improving efficiency in manufacturing to revolutionizing personalized medicine could further bolster the U.S. economy, creating high-paying jobs in the process. As AI becomes integrated into more aspects of life, the U.S. could set global standards, shaping the future of ethics, governance, and technological development. Renewable energy is another area where America can lead the charge. As the world faces the growing threat of climate change, there is an urgent need to shift away from fossil fuels and embrace clean energy sources like solar, wind, and hydroelectric power. The U.S. is home to some of the world's most innovative energy companies and has the resources to continue expanding its renewable energy infrastructure. By investing in sustainable technologies, America can not only reduce its carbon footprint, but also create a new wave of jobs in green industries, ranging from energy production to infrastructure development. Additionally, as the world looks to transition to a more sustainable future, the U.S. could become a global exporter of renewable energy solutions, further cementing its role as a global leader. Biotechnology offers another promising avenue for the U.S. to lead. The recent global health crises have shown how essential biotechnology is for addressing public health challenges, from disease prevention to vaccine development. The U.S. has long been a leader in this field, with institutions like the National Institutes of Health, NIH, and private companies driving some of the most significant advancements in medical science. Biotechnology has the potential to revolutionize healthcare, from gene editing and personalized treatments to longevity research. By fostering innovation in this sector, the U.S. could not only improve the health and well-being of its citizens, but also set global standards for medical practices and biotechnological ethics. Silicon Valley, along with universities and research hubs across the country, will continue to play a pivotal role in advancing these fields. The combination of top-tier academic institutions, research funding, and entrepreneurial ecosystems has created an environment ripe for innovation. By fostering collaboration between the private sector, academia, and government, the U.S. can ensure that it remains the world's leader in technological development. This collaborative approach can drive breakthroughs, support startups, and generate the intellectual capital needed to tackle complex global challenges. In this future, America's commitment to education, research, and development will be crucial. By investing in STEM education and encouraging young talent to pursue careers in these emerging fields, the U.S. can ensure a steady pipeline of skilled workers who will continue to innovate and lead. Furthermore, creating an inclusive and diverse environment in these sectors will help unlock new perspectives and ideas, driving creativity and accelerating progress. Ultimately, if the U.S. can successfully leverage its strengths in technology, energy, and biotechnology, it has the potential not just to maintain its position as the center of global innovation, but to redefine the future of human progress. The next wave of breakthroughs could come from America, transforming the economy, society, and the world in ways previously unimaginable. Internally, the U.S. may undergo significant reforms to address its political polarization, income inequality, and crumbling infrastructure. If the country can revitalize its democracy, ensuring that all Americans have a fair stake in the system, it could not only rejuvenate its economy, but restore its global reputation as a beacon of democratic values. This renewal could help America strengthen its alliances and continue to wield soft power through cultural exports, diplomacy, and the dollar's position as the world's reserve currency. In this scenario, the U.S. is still the dominant player in the global landscape, albeit in a more multilateral, cooperative world. By adapting to new realities and leveraging its strengths, America could continue to lead, not by force, but by example. The multipolar world. This scenario represents a shift away from the traditional unipolar dominance of the U.S. towards a multipolar world, where shared power exists among several major global players: the U.S., China, the European Union, and India. In this future, no single country is dominant, and global governance is characterized by a balance of power. The U.S. continues to play an important role but is no longer the sole leader. Instead, America shares influence with China, which has successfully modernized and expanded its influence, particularly in Asia and Africa. The European Union, with its strong economic and political influence, also contributes significantly to global decision-making. Meanwhile, India's growing economy and geopolitical importance make it a central figure in shaping the future of Asia and beyond. In such a world, global problems like climate change, pandemics, and cybersecurity are tackled through multilateral cooperation rather than unilateral action. Institutions like the United Nations and World Trade Organization may see increased importance, as they will be the venues through which global powers negotiate and collaborate. While the U.S. remains a key player in this multipolar order, it must learn to navigate a world where power is more distributed. This could lead to a more stable and collaborative global order, but also introduces the possibility of tensions between competing powers, especially in areas like trade, technology, and military alliances. The China-led century, in this scenario, China becomes the dominant global power, a shift that could reshape the global balance of power in the coming decades. This future envisions a decoupling of China from Western-led systems, including the global financial system, international trade norms, and institutions like the IMF and World Bank. Instead, China would lead the development of new global institutions and systems that reflect its own priorities, such as Belt and Road Initiative or the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. China's growing influence could result in a China-centric global order, where its economic model, technological advancements, and political philosophy set the tone for the rest of the world. By 2050, China's influence may stretch across not just Asia, but into Africa, Latin America, and Europe, where it will exert its power through both economic investments and strategic partnerships. In this scenario, the U.S. would still play an important role but would no longer dominate the global stage. The U.S. would have to adapt to a world where China calls the shots in many international arenas, from economic regulation to technology standards. The U.S. could struggle with maintaining its global military presence and influence in key regions, like East Asia, Africa, and Latin America, where China's reach will be increasingly felt. For America, this would require a fundamental shift in how it approaches foreign policy, trade, and security, with an emphasis on competition rather than dominance. Additionally, the U.S. would need to rethink its technological trajectory, especially in AI, 5G, and green energy, to stay relevant in the new global economic structure. Which path will America take? While these scenarios might seem extreme, they reflect the complex and rapidly changing global dynamics that the U.S. faces today. Will America adapt and lead in a multipolar world? Will it maintain its dominance through innovation and diplomacy? Or will the rise of China signal the end of American-led global order? The future is uncertain, and there are many variables at play: political stability, economic resilience, technological innovation, and global cooperation. What is clear, however, is that America's ability to adapt to these challenges will be the deciding factor in which scenario becomes reality. In the next section, we will look at the lessons from history that can guide America's decisions in this new global era. Conclusion: as we reach the end of our exploration into America's future, we come back to the central question: will America remain the world's superpower? This question isn't just about military might or economic influence. It's about how the United States will adapt to the rapidly changing world and how it positions itself in a landscape increasingly shaped by new global powers, technology, and shifting geopolitical dynamics. History has shown us that no empire or superpower is immune to change. America's rise to global dominance wasn't inevitable. Its success was shaped by critical decisions, groundbreaking innovations, and the ability to adapt to internal and external challenges. But history is not destiny. It serves as a guide, offering lessons from the past that can help navigate the future. Whether America can continue to lead or whether it will find a new role in a multipolar world depends on the decisions we make today. The future is uncertain, but it is not predetermined. The U.S. has incredible advantages: its economic and technological potential, its culture of innovation, its strategic alliances, and its youth-driven demographics. But it also faces immense challenges: political polarization, income inequality, a growing rivalry with China, and a shifting global order. What do you think the future holds for America and the world? Will the United States continue to be a beacon of leadership, or will it adapt to a new role alongside other emerging powers? Your thoughts and predictions matter, because in the end, the actions we take today will shape the world of tomorrow. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the history and future of global powers. Let's keep the conversation going.